we can start, I think. Good morning, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, dear participants, and media representatives. It's a great honor for me that we welcome you in Baku at the international conference dedicated to Bonaire. Today, our discussions and dialogues will mainly focus on the consequences of the colonial policy of Netherlands, which threatens the future and even the survival of the Bonaire people. We, as Baku Initiative Group, will support actions on saving core values of equality and justice. And I believe that we will make an essential contribution to enhancing and reinforcing our efforts in the elimination of colonialism. I would like to inform you that International Conference on Bonaire'S pathway from Baku through United Nations General Assembly to self-determination, organized by Baku Initiative Group in collaboration with Bonaire Human Rights Organization and Movement for Change. And now, with great pleasure, I would like to give the floor to my colleagues, distinguished guests from Bonaire, Ms. Bessassar and Mr. Finis, for their welcome speeches. Please.
Bom dia, Amita de Bonaire. I am from Bonaire. I come from the Papiamento-speaking Caribbean. Papiamento is our native language, together with Haiti, Creole, are the only two native official languages in the Caribbean that survived colonization. I will speak today in broken English. I thank the Baku Initiative Group, Mr. Abbasov and his complete team, the government and members of Parliament of Azerbaijan present here today, but also the people of Azerbaijan for the exceptional hospitality and for solidarity to us, our peoples of Bonaire, for making this historic event possible for us. I will also thank our brothers and sisters from our region that are here in support of our Bonaire peoples. I recognize Ambassador Sumer, Ambassador Fuller, Dr. Scotland, Professor Brian Cox, Mr. Samuel, and Mr. Jorge Garcia. Our sincere thanks to all of you for this huge sacrifice, making this long journey halfway around the world to support our Bonaire people's struggle in their born right to self-determination. Today, we are here with a group of extraordinary Bonaire citizens, our modern-day heroes, as being the first time in our history that a group of conscious and determined citizens appear at a global stage to fight for their rights for their future generations, for all and all other fellow Bonaireans. You will witness today the voice of the ones that are silenced and cannot speak for themselves. That's why we're here today for them. We, the Bonaireans, do not live in a post-colonial world, in a post-colonial Caribbean. We live in a Dutch colony. All cliches we hear all the time, all born equal in dignity and rights. Human rights for all. No one should be left behind. No one is free until all is free. Right to humanity, native genocides, right to exist. These are not our past. It's our present, our daily struggle. I will just introduce why, for us, it's very present that we are here. We are facing democratic changes, a population shift, or you can ask, is it native genocide? From 2010 to 2024, Bonaire experienced a significant democratic shift. The island population more than doubled, growing from approximately 11,000 to 25,000 today residents. By 2024, native Bonaireans comprise now less than 32% of the population. raising concern about our ability to preserve our cultural identity and exercise our rights of self-determination in a meaningful way. How can this happen, as we are asked often? It was an immigration explosion. It's an impact of the Dutch immigration on Bonaire demographic and governance. The population surge of Bonaire is largely driven by an influx of Dutch immigrants who were actively recruited through promotional campaigns. The relocation costs of these settlers colonizers are covered by the Dutch government. They receive double living income, including allowance for mortgages in Europe and Netherlands. Sounds crazy, right? But upon arrival, they gain voting rights within 3 months, and they enjoy the highest living standards on the island. Meanwhile, our people are living in poverty. This shift has resulted in local leaders being replaced by the new immigrants, effectively altering the governance of the island. Moreover, the education system has been transformed from one that prioritized our native language, Papiamento, to focus on a Dutch language, aligning with the preference of the new arrivals. This change benefits the Dutch settlers, ensuring that children face no disadvantages. Consequently, the demographic composition of our school has shifted dramatically from predominantly Bonaire'S, like me and my other fellows, now to mixed dominated by Dutch and other European students, leaving many local Bonaire'S in lower tiers education tracks. Another point, healthcare or elimination. If you Google us, they say they invest so millions in healthcare, but for who? It's a crisis in the community healthcare. The healthcare system Bonaire has undergone significant changes, impacting the local population detrimentally. Local doctors were replaced by temporarily medical staff from Holland, causing communication barriers for Papiamento-speaking patients, especially the elderly. Pharmacies were coerced into selling to Dutch-run hospitals, resulting in limited access to needed medication. The shift of these generic drugs led to many complications, as this medicine affected negatively our people, and they have to pay themselves now for most medicines, creating financial burdens. Our residents, where they tell us they take the receipt, but they don't go because they don't have money, so they don't take the drugs. So with some unable to afford these essential treatments. Additionally, the imposition of euthanasia laws for us, mostly Catholic Christian believer, that is murder, impose that law on us. We cannot vote against that law. We cannot impose it. And age-based treatment denials. After 70, by law, they have the right to deny our people medical treatment. This has sparked concerns among the community, leading to an increased mortality rates, especially among our elderly. Furthermore, the lack of emergency care facilities on the island has forced patients to be flown to Colombia. It's about 4 hours farther, 2 hours with everything. This delay has proven fatal in almost all cases of emergency. Another issue, inappropriate conceptive practices have caused unintended sterilization and material deaths, contributing to a drastic decline in birth rate. The absence of proper documentation regarding causes of death has obscured all natural death, they tell us, leaving families grieving over lost ones without any good closure to their recourses. Another type, massive exodus, a crisis impacting by taxes raised on our community. The unprecedented tax increase in taxes has raised the tax burden in our community to levels comparable to those in the Netherlands, Europe, despite incomes being less than half of theirs. The situation has pushed about 3/4 of our island population below the poverty line. For the first time in our history, proud Bonaire'S have lost their dignity, lining up in 3 food banks that come with that emerged as a direct result of this crisis. They're lining up now to take food. Never in our life we did that as proud islanders. Many of them had to take 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, with some even resorted to desperate measures to feed their families. The majority of local business have been devastated, and countless citizens have lost their properties due skyrocketing property and land taxes, which have increased by they did increase with 2, 3, 10 times. They increased with 500 to 800%. In response to this humiliation, losing their homes, land, and livelihoods, many have chosen to immigrate en masse to the Netherlands to live on social welfare. I'm gonna start ending with an urgent call to action. That's why we're here. 1 second. The eradication of our people. We, as our population has dwindled to 32%, and then that all led to that we are become now a minority on our own island. And this was projected in 2017 when the first statistic came out, because everything was taken over by the Dutch administration. We didn't have statistics. But in 2017, when they published, after all those years, the statistics, then people realized what we were saying. We fell below 40% of the population, the natives. And with a prediction, by 2030, we will be less than 1/3. But end of last year, the statistics show that we are already 32%. So we are 7 years ahead of this gloomy prediction. So today we're here. We have no time to have a lot of conferences and discussions. This is an urgent call. It's not about politics anymore. This is a humanitarian crisis we're facing. And we hope that this message comes over today. And we brought some heroes, I said, from Hawaii Island to help us to plead to you, to plead in the world. We hide it, but if we stay hidden, we'll disappear. So thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Abbas, and the big and the people of AZERBAIJAN. Thank you.
Thank you very much for such insightful speech, and floor is yours, Ms. Bissessar.
Thank you, Mr. Abasov. With all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished persons, today we gather at a historical moment, not only for the people of Bonaire, but all those who cherish, defend the fundamental principles of human rights. It's an honor and a privilege to stand before you as the president of Bonaire Human Rights Organization, representing the hopes, the dreams, and aspirations of our people of Bonaire. Bonaire is a small island with a rich cultural heritage, but like many communities around the world, we face challenges that test our resolve and determination. The rights of our people, the rights to self-determination, the right to preserve our culture identity, and the right to equal development are essential to our mission. Yet, these rights cannot be fully realized in isolation. We depend on the support and understanding of the global community to amplify our voices and to ensure that justice is not merely an ideal, but of reality for all. Today, I stand before you to vouch for the unwavering dedication of the people of Bonaire to the cause of human rights. We are resilient and determined people, committed to protecting the dignity and freedom of every individual on our island. Mr. Finis refused to accept the illegal annexation of Bonaire and did something about it. However, we cannot do this alone. We need the international community support, your support, to help us achieve our goals. Our advocacy, your solidarity, your voices can make a monumental difference in our struggle. Today, we send a powerful message that the rights of small communities are just as vital as those of larger nations, that the preservation of our cultural heritage is universal. Concerned that the pursuit of justice knows no boundaries, the people of Bonaire are ready to work hand in hand with all of you to ensure that our shared values of human rights and dignity are upheld and respected. The situation for Bonaire is to protect it like we protect the turtles, the flamingos, the coral in Bonaire. We protect everything else on Bonaire except one thing, the natives Bonaire'S. We must be put back on the protective list of non-self-governing territories of the United Nations. In closing, I want once again to thank the people of AZERBAIJAN and our gracious host, Baku Initiative Group, for coming together at this historical conference to hosting us. We are humble people. What we see today in front of us makes us smile, makes our ancestors smile, makes the people of Bonaire who could not be with us are here in our spirit. Today we can build a world where human rights of all people, regardless of size or location, are respected and protected. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you for your contribution. Now, dear participants, I would like to give brief information on Baku Initiative Group, which continues to support struggles of colonized regions against colonialism under the international norms and principles. As well known, the Baku Initiative Group established in July 2023, and since the last year, we successfully conducted 14 international events where discussed political, economic, and cultural consequences of the colonialism and violations of human rights in colonized regions. Also, we have published several reports which dedicated to decolonization. Our organization achieved significant results on raising awareness of international community on consequences of French colonial policy in New Caledonia, French Polynesia, Martinique, Guadeloupe, French Guiana, Wallis and Futuna, Mayotte, and Corsica. Baku Initiative Group's comprehensive and successful activity consistently raised and continues to raise awareness of global community about current situation in colonized regions. In addition, we continue to raise awareness of global community through international platforms such as United Nations Human Rights Council and Non-Alignment Movement Parliamentary Network, where Baku Initiative Group is represented. Dear Bonaire'S delegates, the right to self-determination is fundamental. Our organization will continue to support the fair struggle of colonized regions on their independence in spite of any pressures. And now, we would like to present the video about Baku Initiative Group's activity on decolonization and speech by representative of colonized regions, Guadeloupe, French Guiana, and Martinique on support your struggle against colonial policy of Netherlands.
Bonjour, chers camarades de Bonaire, chers camarades réunis à Baku. Bonaire et la Guadeloupe, nous avons une même trajectoire historique et nous vous disons que nous vous retrouvons bientôt ensemble pour combattre le colonialisme dans la Caraïbe et libérer nos peuples. Merci.
Bonjour, bonjour chers amis. Nous sommes le 17 août 2024. L'association Collective Justice Martinique, une association qui prône le respect des droits humains, nous soutenons les habitants de l'île Bonaire.
Dear James and Davika, today you are here in this conference in Baku. First of all, I have to thank the Baku Initiative Group for organizing this international meeting in order to support your fight. I'm part of it. And I'd like also to express all my solidarity with the struggle of the people of Bonaire to be free one day. All of us who are trying to be re-enlisted on the UN list of non-self-governing territories. Your victory will be our victory, and our victory will be yours. Hasta la victoria siempre.
First part of our conference discussions, which will concentrate on fourth international decade for the eradication of colonialism, current situation and challenge. And it's a privilege for me to give the floor to co-founder of Movement for Change of Bonaire, Ms. Kyle Elizabeth Finis. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Abasov. Dear distinguished delegates, all protocols observed. I never thought that I, a young woman from a tiny island of less than 300 square kilometers in the Caribbean, would get the opportunity to talk about my people's struggle to an audience of world leaders such as you all present here today. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to use our voices and to be heard. 10-10-10. This date marked the dissolution of the Netherlands Antilles and the beginning of a new era, as Bonaire became a special municipality of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. While it brought with it promises of stability and prosperity, it has also created profound cultural challenges affecting everything from our language to our education, our youth, our housing, and even our sense of identity. Let's start with language. It is more than just words. It's the foundation of our culture and our way of expressing who we are. In Bonaire, we speak Papiamentu, a language that has been passed down through generations. It has created by our ancestors and can be traced back to the 17th century, when African slaves who were brought to our island started communicating with the native indigenous peoples. Papiamentu directly translates to talk. It was born purely out of the need for survival, and it lives on till this day. Since 10-10-10, the influence of the Dutch language has been steadily increasing. While Dutch is the official language of governance and education, it is not the language spoken amongst the people of the island. This has led to a widening gap between the government and the people. Governance is in Dutch, while our society functions in Papiamentu. In schools, Dutch has become the primary language of instruction, creating barriers for many of our children who grow up speaking Papiamentu. Imagine being a young child, filled with curiosity and the desire to learn, but being forced to do so in a language that feels foreign and disconnected from your everyday life. This creates an educational divide, leaving many of our youth struggling to keep up, feeling alienated within their own schooling. They feel stupid because they are not fluent in Dutch. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is to constantly have to translate who you are just so outsiders can understand you on your own island? The result? An educational system that intentionally disadvantages our children and threatens our culture. In this modern day, when everyone has a device in their hands, a shocking change and very clear attempt at erasing the Bonaire'an identity came from the use of emojis. There are flags from every country on your keyboard. For many social media users, the use of the Bonaire'an flag was switched to the Dutch flag. We were not able to post, comment, or use our own flag in the digital world. Luckily, after many, many complaints, the majority of websites and apps reversed this change. This brings me to the issue of youth and identity. I was only 13 years old when everything started changing back in 10-10-10. I didn't understand what was going on. My father, James Finis, who you just heard speak, he was called crazy, a madman, and even arrested for trying to voice his opinion. All I understood at the time was that I was losing my father right before my eyes. I was robbed of a normal childhood with a father figure, all because my father was brave enough to fight against the injustices happening right before our eyes. We're now 14 years later, and I am much wiser and see things more clearly. Now I understand why he did what he had to do. The youth on Bonaire'S growing up in a world where they are caught between two cultures, their Bonaire'an heritage and the Dutch influence that dominates their education and governance. This tug of war creates confusion about identity. Who are we? Bonaire'an, Dutch, somewhere in between? As someone with a Bonaire'an father and a Dutch mother, I know this struggle all too well. I studied communication, and I know how language can affect our sense of self-identity. I realize that when I speak Dutch, I am more serious, selfish, and closed off. When I speak Papiamento, I am kinder, warmer, more open-hearted. That is what it means to be a Bonaire'an. In our language, we don't have a distinction between him or her, they or them. There is no real other. Everyone is referred to as one people. We are equals. We are kind people. We care about our neighbors. We greet everyone, everywhere, no matter the time or place. While the Dutch system promises a better future, this lifestyle comes at a cost to our own culture and identity. My peers and I are starting to feel like outsiders on our own island. These cultural differences manifest not only in language and education, but also in everyday life. Since 10-10-10, we've seen an influx of Dutch expatriates who come to our island with different expectations, different customs, and different ways of life. While diversity is supposed to be enriching, it can also create tension when one culture begins to overshadow the other. One clear example is in housing. The arrival of Dutch expatriates has led to a rising property values and a shift in the housing market. Many Bonaire'ans find themselves being pushed out of their own homes and communities, unable to afford decent housing as Dutch newcomers come to drive up the cost of living. This creates a stark divide. New modern homes for the Dutch, while many locals are left in substandard housing or pushed to the margins of the island. I've seen homes that belong to local generations be put up for sale, because a Dutch person moved in next door, decided to do renovations, which increased the property value and thus also the property taxes. This causes local families to not be able to afford their own home anymore because the property taxes are unpayable. What happens next? The local families are forced out of their home. They have to put it up for sale, and another Dutch family moves in. It's a cycle. The very idea of home is changing for Bonaireans, as the place we've known for generations becomes less and less accessible to us. I, for example, still live at home with my parents. I love them, but I would like a place of my own. I can't afford it, and I'm 27 years old. This brings us to the issue of property. Despite being part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, many Bonaireans still live in poverty. The promise of 10-10-10 was to improve living standards and align Bonaire with the prosperity of European Netherlands. But the reality has been far from that. There's a strong desire for more local autonomy, for the ability to make decisions that are in the best interest of the Bonaire and its people, rather than being dictated by policies made far away in the Netherlands. The relationship between Bonaire and the Netherlands is complex. And while there have been benefits to being part of the kingdom, it is clear that the current arrangement is not without its flaws. The people of Bonaire are calling for a governance model that respects our culture, our language, our identity, and our right to shape our own future. This will allow us, the people of the island, to decide what to do that's the best interest for the island. An example of this is how we can use our tax money to strengthen our cultural identity for generations to come. Some ideas for what our island currently lacks that seems to be normal for other countries around the world. A cultural center. So locals as well as visitors can learn about the cultural history of Bonaire. It can be a gathering place where the youth can learn and create, and the elderly can pass down valuable lessons about our culture, music, cuisine, and history. Statues. We need historical figures represented as statues, so everyone can see that our people are resilient, brave, and strong. Incorporating history curriculum about our actual Bonairean history, not that of the Dutch kingdom, so that our kids will learn that we have the power to overcome anything and that we are not meant to be governed by a foreign country. Building a trade school, so everyone can learn the skills needed to keep society running effectively and efficiently. Building a college or university, so our youth isn't forced to leave the island in hopes of gaining more knowledge. In conclusion, 10-10-10 has been since 10-10-10, Bonaire has been navigating a delicate balance between its heritage and its place within the Dutch kingdom. While the Dutch governance has brought certain benefits, it has also created significant cultural tensions. From language and education to housing and social inequality, the impact is deeply felt within the everyday lives of the Bonairean people. Despite these challenges, Bonaire remains resilient. Our people are proud, resourceful, and deeply connected to nature. The call for more governance, for more self-governance, is not a rejection of the Netherlands, but rather a call for a relationship that is more fair, more respectful, and more reflective of who we are as a people. We stand at a crossroads, and the future of Bonaire depends on how we navigate this uncharted path before us. It is my hope that we can work towards a governance model that honors our culture, protects our rights, and ensures that every Bonairean can thrive in the land that we call home. This is why we are here today, to ask for your support in helping us gain more self-governance. The t-shirt I'm wearing right now, I made it back in 2016 because I got tired of explaining where I am from. I had been at university in the United States for less than 1 year. My t-shirt says Caribeña. It means Caribbean. When I'm asked where I'm from, I don't say I'm from an island within the Dutch kingdom. I don't say I'm from the Dutch Caribbean. I say I'm from a small island in the southern Caribbean, very close to the northern coast of Venezuela. I am from Bonaire. I'm not Dutch. I'm Caribbean. I'm Bonairean. Mita Caribeña, mita Bonaireano. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kyle, for such insightful speech, insightful words. We discovered a lot of information about the reality in Bonaire. Thank you very much. Now, dear participants, I would like to give the floor to human rights activist, Mr. Philippe Santiago Milan. Please.
Okay. I would like to adopt all the protocols already established. History has shown us that colonialism has a profound, lasting impact on our education system. Even today, the structure and standard within our schools are largely influenced by the norms and values imposed by the colonizers. The rules and system in place are often designed to provide the needs and the preferences of Dutch students rather than those of the local population. An obvious example of this is to hiring practices within our education system where the majority of jobs positions are targeted toward attracting Dutch educators. This preference not only sidelines local educators, but also prolongs a system where the language of instruction is mostly Dutch, the language of the former oppressors. How was this executed in our island? The local director was replaced with a Dutch director, and 40 Papiamento-speaking educators were laid off, offered early leave, bullied, devaluated, and then replaced with arriving Dutch-speaking educators. I was one of the Papiamento-speaking teachers. This directly violates child's rights of education from educators from their community. Education in mother language is a human, a child's, and civil rights. The dominance of the Dutch language in our education system extends beyond simple communication. It is also a key determinant of a student's success. For example, a student intelligence and academic potential are often evaluated through the ability in Dutch. This prejudice was frankly demonstrated in a recent case involving a Bonaire'S student and a Dutch student. Both students achieved the same average grade of 7.5, a score that naturally qualified the student to move from MAVO, a junior general secondary education, to HAVO, a senior general secondary education, which is a higher educational level. However, the Dutch student, who also scoring a 4 in Papiamento, was promoted to HAVO, while the Bonaire'S student, who also scored a 4 but in Dutch, was not. This clear discrepancy highlights how the Dutch language is given far more weight and importance than our mother language, Papiamento. Also, the content of our education is deeply rooted in the stories created by the colonizers. The history of slavery, as taught in our school, is written by the viewpoint of the oppressor. Our students are taught the figures like Piet Hein are heroes, despite his action as a pirate and his role in the oppression of our people. The true history of slavery, the stories of those who were colonized is largely absent from our school program. Instead of providing a balanced and a truthful account of our students receive a version of history that glorified the oppressor and disrespect the experience of the oppressed. There is also an evident absence of target programs or lessons aimed at deprogramming the inherited trauma of slavery. The memory of slavery, passed down from generation to generation, is not addressed in our education system. There are no structured effort incorporate mother language teaching or to value and preserve our cultural identity. Papiamento, our mother language, is given little to no value within the education system. In fact, Papiamento lessons are often replaced by arithmetic and Dutch, despite research in the Netherlands showing that even the Dutch students struggle with both Dutch and arithmetic. The present education system seems to demand that our students conform to its not flexible standard rather than adapting to meet the needs and the realities of our students. This deliberate mistake has led to high dropout rates, as students who do not fit within the system are often pushed out than supported. The pressure to perform under these conditions takes a significant psychological toll on our students, who must navigate education system that doesn't reflect their culture, value, or language. Also, the norm and value inherited in our culture from often overshadowed and restricted by the Dutch educators who come to work in our school. Due to the cultural differences, these educators may not fully understand or respect our cultural practices, further isolating our students and undermining their educational experience. In conclusion, the impact of colonialism in our education system is profound and complex. To truly serve our students, we must critically examine and reform the structures, content, and practice within our schools. We must create an education system that values our mother language, respect our culture inheritance, and empower our students to success on the island. We must take this decisive action to ensure that Bonaire is placed on the list of non-self-governing territories. This designation will force the Netherlands to provide a regular report and development in our people in every aspect: cultural, educationally, politically, socially, and economically. By doing so, we can hold the Netherlands accountable for its obligation toward the progress and well-being of the Bonairean people, ensuring that our unique identity and needs are respected and nurtured on the international stage. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Milan. Now, I would like to give the floor to our distinguished guest, the head of department at the Center of Analysis of International Relations, to Mr. Javid Valiyev.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dear colleagues, distinguished representatives of people of Bonaire, The issue we are discussing today is the self-determination right of people of Bonaire, which actually emerged in the due process stemming from the UN Charter, relevant UN resolutions, and decisions of the International Court of Justice after the Second World War. I would like to remind to our participants that the people of Bonaire declared their own will in 2015. As a result of referendum held in Bonaire in 2015, 65.55% of people declared that they were against the political status of the island. Let me also remind all of you that on the dissolution of the Netherlands Antilles on October 10, 2010, the island of Bonaire was officially annexed and integrated under unequal rights into the Dutch constitution without the consent of the people of Bonaire. Their autonomy was reversed as a local government because subordinated to the Hague's colonial rule. But results of 2015 referendum was an important outcome for the Bonaire'S who had been fighting for independence for many years. It gives Bonaire people the right to self-determination of independence. The right to self-determination is a right granted to colonized people, especially after World War II, and became one of the most important principles of international law, especially from the establishment of the UN until 1970. Revolutionary regulations were adopted to the colonies of, we call it today, non-self-governed territories, to have the right to self-determination. Through the series of resolutions during the years 1951 and 1953, the UN General Assembly established a number of tests to evaluate the degree of independence achieved without being misled by external appearance of the regime. The Charter of United Nations established trustship system in order to replace the previous mandate system. Additionally, Article 73 of the UN Charter confirmed and expanded the concept of sacred trust to all territories whose people have not yet attained full measure of self-government. The whole system basically vested authority to the former colonial powers. UN Charter referred to the self-determination of peoples in Article 1, Paragraph 2, and also in Article 55. However, some elements remained unclear because the drafters of the UN Charter included representatives of the United Kingdom and France, two powers with huge colonial territories. The whole process of decolonization was complicated by the competition between Western powers, or they would call themselves liberal democracies, and Soviet-style communism at that time. Nevertheless, peoples in colonies were longing for freedom and for self-government. In this sense, the fight against the colonialism at that time spread in the legal and political level widely in Asia, in Europe. The landmark of development in this regard happened with the adoption of UN General Assembly Resolution 1514, December 14, 1960. The resolution was entitled Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples of 1960. Commonly, this declaration was known Declaration of Decolonization. It proclaimed necessity of bringing a speedy and unconditional end to colonialism and in all its forms and manifestations. people living in non-self-governing territories, and people subject to alien subjugation, domination, and exploitation were granted the right of self-determination. 10 years after Resolution 1514, the General Assembly reaffirmed the right of people self-determination in Declaration of Principle of International Law concerning friendly relations and cooperation among the states, Resolution 2625 of October 24 in 1970. As well, the advisory opinion of International Court of Justice entitled Legal Consequences for States of the Continued Presence of South Africa in Namibia of June 21 in 1971 underlined the ultimate objective of sacred trust for the self-determination and independence of the people concerned. The right of people to self-determination understood as a right of colonial people to secede from the colonial power and to become independent state. The right brought about the revolutionary change in composition and concerns of international community. As a result, in 1950, there were 60 UN member states. In 1961, after Resolution 1514 was adopted, there were 104 UN member states. In 1970, there were 128. In other words, number of independent states doubled more than during 20 years. The reason for my historical review is the following. The self-determination enhanced the global community and freed people from slavery. But unfortunately, today the slavery continues, albeit in different forms. Dear participants, for many generations in Europe, colonialism had been considered noble task and a lifelike project. Today, colonialism is prohibited by international law. But unfortunately, Bonaire exists as a special municipality of the Netherlands, but in reality, it's a territory in colonial dependent structures. To sum up, in fact, we are here to talk not only about the violation of the fundamental right of the people of Bonaire, but also fundamental principle of current international law. The main reason for this is that some states promote double standards regarding both the provisions of the fundamental principles of international law, such as sovereignty and territorial integrity, and the fundamental principle of the rights of people to self-determination. Therefore, today, the victim of these double standards is not only people of Bonaire, but also all peoples who have been subjected to modern colonial rule under the disguise of various forms of administration by the formal colonial powers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valier, for your contributions. Thank you for your detailed evaluation, analysis, and presenting to us. Thank you very much, and it's a privilege for me to introduce Mr. Albertigo Janga, Chief Editor at the Radio Vision of Bonaire. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you. We are here thankful that you have allowed us of Bonaire citizens the opportunity to explain to the world what we are currently facing. Since 10 October 2010, Holland has invaded Bonaire without our permission. The colonial oppressor wants to continue manipulating an indifferent community. But thanks to James Finis, as a tentative citizen, has taken on him to struggle to fight the injustice to the Dutch that invaded Bonaire with lots of rules and laws that they have in Holland and impose this on us. That is why we're here today to inform the world how and what the Dutch government continues to impose on us. Laws that are immoral, that are not our norms and values, things that as Christian we did not grow up with. We were not raised knowledge of knowing and normalizing same-sex marriage. Our norms, values, and our culture is not respected. Since 10-10-10, there was a major change where the Dutch has invited Bonaire and decided to take our immigration service over. In this, and made us a minority by letting all kinds of people enter and work and take bread away from our mouths, impairing our humble people. One of these things I want to emphasize here today with great sadness is that our income tax money, our islands, on source of income, was surrendered to the Dutch government to collect. This is given back to us yearly in the form of 3 million free away loans. The Finances Minister of Holland has never informed the public entity of Bonaire how much money the island of Bonaire taxes generate per year. The amount that I was made aware of back in 2022 is over 200 million per year. Holland has taken the health care under the responsibility. We used to have access to free dental care, and it was later taken away. We also had free eye care every 2 years, and now it's been changed to every 3 years. Our specialists flown in from abroad are rated every 3-6 months, leading to a disconnect between patient and the health care system. Patients cannot build trust with their doctors and are frustrated with having to repeat their concern to a new face each time. Our education is directed towards the Dutch economy and market because Holland constructed our curriculum. The system forces our kids to abandon their family at 16, 17, 18 years, all to go study abroad. Most students go to Holland because that is what has been normalized. After the study, they are offered jobs abroad to help Holland economy and not their own island. Even when the youth want to return to their homeland with higher education, like a master's study, they are denied and held back by Dutch oppressors. Since Bonaire has become an integral part of the Netherlands, without the people consent, Bonaire has gotten worse for its own people. The system has brought segregation and apartheid among the people and poverty. All migrants are being treated with silk gloves, and the native are being treated poorly because of the lack of nation-building skills. When the Dutch arrived on Bonaire, everything changed and not in our favor. I feel like they want to put Holland's population of 17 million people on Bonaire. A few years ago, we had 12 to 15,000. Now it's more than 25,000, with Bonaire native population down to 32%. We are minorities on our island. Dutch organizations such as Authority Consumers Mark, ACM, and Authority Financial Market, AFM, strangle the less resolveful when they cannot pay their electricity and water bill. They are disconnected, and to reconnect it, they have to pay 40 for the electricity and 40 for the water. Drinking water is essential human right. They have made our people beg for basic needs. The time has come to put Bonaire on the list on self-government's island so we can be protected under the United Nations law. Audience, can you imagine you have a home with your family, and you work every day to earn a living? Your neighbor collects your salary and tell you how you have to use your money. That is not normal. We should not have to beg for basic needs and fair treatment. With a change of mindset, we will accomplish a lot. With your support, we will achieve our objective to hold Holland accountable for promise made 14 years ago to protect our human rights and guide us to a better future for all Bonaireans. Thank you. Viva Bonaire!
Thank you very much for your speech, Mr. Janga. And now I would like to give the floor Mr. Shahrzad Theodora, young political leader of the Progressive People's Union of Bonaire. Please.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Shahir Theodora, and I'm 29 years old. I live on the beautiful island of Bonaire. I was invited here today as a voice of the youth to speak on behalf of my country, youth leader of Pueblo Progresivo Unión. I have a few topics to talk about. 1, the history of my country. 2, the Dutch system school. 3, my experience in school. 4, taking our food sources away from us. 5, my people are dying. That's the 5 topics I will share with you today. The history of my country. Our ancestors were brought to this small island as slaves in 1640 to work in the salt ponds and build the Dutch Empire through the salt herring industry. But wait, listen to this again. To build the Dutch Empire in 1640. Why does history start this year? What happened to our Taino? Because we also have Taino history. Not just the history of slaves. Not all of us came from Africa. As a young man, I know nothing about Taino. Very sad. They teach us more about slaves to let it look like Bonaire is not from us. But it is. We have so many signs of painting in the cave of Bonaire of Taino. There are so many lies in our history that I'm not even sure if 1640 is the real year of slave. They never told us which country in Africa a slave came from. I think I discovered this for myself this year about Cabo Verde. A few months ago, I discovered that this island speaks both Portuguese and Papiamento. Thanks to someone from Curaçao who was there. And this person speaks Papiamento to the people. I wasn't shocked. So are they our people? Is this part where our family came from? The Dutch system school. In my country, schools are used to brainwash our people, teaching them to be workers but not owners of company. They gave us tests, but it's about Holland culture, not about our. Yeah, they gave us tests, but it's not about. It's about Holland culture, not about our culture. They forcing us in their planning. They hold our people down while the Dutch continue to grow on Bonaire, like ants. We have no University of on Bonaire, so most of our children have to study in Holland. I choose not to go because I'm already done with the school and the system. My experience in school. One of the years I was at school, they tried to force us to speak only Dutch at school. We refused to do that. After a few weeks, they see that it doesn't work, they give up. They have a very bad plan for our people. We need serious help. During my school years, this happened to me. Imagine studying media for 2 years, only to be told at the end of the year that your certificate is invalid because the media class wasn't legally recognized by the school. This happened to both the media class and the healthcare classes. This news broke so many kids, including me. The next day, we shut down the whole school for 1 day, leaving more than 600 kids outside. This became breaking news on the radio. The sad part is that many kids had already completed their studies and received this false certificate. We're already working with them. The school called every student back, but many of them refused to return. They shattered the future of many kids. The Dutch court system. Our judges are only Dutch. They imprison our people, but not their own. Any Dutch man who does something wrong on Bonaire will never be imprisoned. A young man hit a Dutch guy on his bike because the young man was drunk, and the victim passed away. The Dutch locked up this young man for months. Now, the same judge was in Curaçao for another case, because in Curaçao, a Dutch man hit 2 dark people with a car and they passed away. The same judge who locked up this young man released the Dutch man. So the Dutch guy killed 2 dark people and go free. This went viral on the ABC island. If I did that, I was locked up for years. Our people have no rights on Bonaire. We are treated as if we are nothing on our own island. Our prison is too big for our population. And this is the sad part. They built a statue of a black mother with her son in front of this prison. For me, this meaning of this statue is a place of our black people. Taking our food sources away from us. On Bonaire, goat is one of our food sources. In 2020, I was locked up because my friends and I catch some goats. They claimed that the government owned the goats on Bonaire. When my case went to court, I told my lawyer that this is an old law. The lawyer said that if the government owns all goats in the forest, it should be responsible for all damage to people's car. A few months later in court, they said that the government is no longer the owner of the goats. Now, everyone can catch goats, except those marked as belonging to an owner. Later, on a radio station with Jim Finis, I realized that my case helped bring about change for us. But that wasn't the ending. Now they are killing the goats because goats supposedly don't let the forest grow. What do you want us to eat when they're gone? Plastic food? Junk food? They use guns to take down the goats and let them die in the forest. What's wrong with Dutch people? Not all, but you know what I mean. If fish lived on the land, they would be killed too, because currently so many species of fish that prohibit eating them. So let our people die. So you let our people die so you could make money? Do you want to see Bonaire in fourth place as best diving spot and beautiful island? But what do you mean? Did you came on Bonaire and find it with many trash on the street? No, because it's already clean and beautiful. We keep our island clean. They just want us to leave our island. They just want to see more Dutch and less Bonaire'An. My people are dying. Our medical center is full of Dutch. After 10-10-10, many Bonaire'Ans were removed from their work. We have been under Dutch rule for 14 years, supposedly legally. We didn't choose this. They forced our government to sign the letter. Why more Bonaire'An dying and less Dutch? Why have so many Bonaire'An losing their feet? Meanwhile, the Dutch continue to grow on Bonaire. We are only 33% Bonaire'An on Bonaire. The rest are outsiders. Was this a trap? At this time, all employees at our medical center of Bonaire required to speak Dutch at work. They cannot speak Papiamento, English, or Spanish. They are supposed to learn our language. They are on my land, or our land. What a disrespectful situation. This is what makes us angry to the Dutch. Hope this can stop soon, because I'm tired of seeing my people suffer and pretending to understand the system. But that is not the case. Many of them remain silent in the brainwashing system. As a youth leader of the Pueblo Progresivo Unión, please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Theodore. Thank you for your supporting the voice of Bonaire youth and the people of Bonaire. And our next speaker is Mrs. Rutsana Holder, the Vice President of the African Caribbean Association.
Thank you. Distinguished delegates, I would like to adapt all protocols already established. I stand before you today to draw your attention to an urgent and pressing issue that strikes my heart as a young professional of Bonaire. This small and beautiful island in the Caribbean is a place I am proud to call home. As we gather here today, committed to upholding human rights, especially the youths, it is imperative that we as young professionals get the opportunities that we deserve on our home country, Bonaire. We confront many difficulties when applying to jobs on Bonaire. To start, we have to study abroad to earn a bachelor's and master's degree. When we return, our diplomas are not being recognized. We are being told that we lack work experience in our field and are not given a trial period to demonstrate our skills. It is time that employers become realistic and flexible in their requirements. Companies are not implementing training and mentorship programs specifically designed for new graduates and young workers. We as young professionals are asking for tools and support so we can succeed and gain work experience on our own island. Since 2010, majority of the jobs are being given to Europeans and other non-locals who immigrate to the island. It is an official requirement on Bonaire for employers to recruit personnel locally, but unfortunately, many fail to adhere to this obligation. This further decreases the young locals' chance to get work experience and earn a decent living. The young people of Bonaire face a bleak future. The island's economy is heavily dependent on tourism, a sector that offers little in a way of stable, well-paying jobs. Instead, the jobs available are often seasonal, low-wage, forcing the youth to work multiple jobs just to make ends meet. The agreement made by the Netherlands with Bonaire after 10-10-10 was meant to uphold people's human rights. Despite the promises made to help Bonaire progress, the shadow of domination lingers, manifested to the unequal relationship between Bonaire and the Netherlands. This relationship is characterized by an economic structure that serves external interests while neglecting the well-being and future prospects of Bonaire. The current system in place does not give us much freedom to decide what happens with our own tax money. Unfortunately, these decisions are made 78,000 kilometers away in Holland. When I moved back to Bonaire after my studies, I was very excited for my return as a recent graduate. I never expected that 7 years later, the young professionals of Bonaire are still fighting for job opportunities. I too was confronted with many challenges and faced rejections while job searching in a variety of sectors. I was told by many that I was either overqualified, underqualified, or that I lacked work experience. This left me in a state of confusion, and I started doubting my skills and experiences. I returned to Bonaire with a master's degree of business administration. Yet I had to enter the tourism industry in order to support myself financially. I am the voice of many who could not be here today. Jenny Molina, a local youth who has a degree in business and economics and a master's degree in strategic management. Angela Emerenciana, a local youth who has a master's degree in Dutch law. Tirsa Silveri, a local youth who has a degree in exceptional student education, special education. Daniela Bicesar, a local youth who has a degree in biology medicine. Steffi Leon, a local youth who has a degree in accounting and economics and a master's in corporate finance, and many other youths who face oppression daily and are being held back in their growth opportunities due to the current structure in place. Young Bonaireans are forced to leave their homeland in search for better opportunities abroad, leading to a brain drain that further weakens the island's social fabric and economic potential. Once returned, the youth get stuck in a constant cycle of oppression. This cycle needs to end. Bonaire has an urgent need to create better opportunity for its youth. The future of our island depends on the talent, creativity, and dedication that the young Bonaireans bring. But for that potential to be realized, we need real solutions, and we need them now. We are only asking for a chance to learn, gather experiences, and grow. This situation is not a natural occurrence, but rather a direct consequence of the Dutch economic policies imposed on Bonaire. The Netherlands retains significant control over the island's economic and political decisions, often prioritizing the interests of Dutch businesses and foreign investors over the local population. Without the necessary skills and opportunities, the youth of Bonaire will stay trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty and marginalization. This not only undermines their development, but also hampers the island's ability to build a diverse and resilient economy. The youth of Bonaire deserves the right to control their own resources and to help build an economy that serves their needs. I call upon the international community to stand in solidarity with Bonaire. We must advocate for policies that promote economic self-sufficiency, affordable housing, personal and professional development, special and inclusive education, job creation, accredited education, and lastly, the protection of the island's unique environment. That is why we are here, advocating for Bonaire to be placed on the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories. Let us not allow the injustice of the past to persist in the present. The youth of Bonaire deserve our unwavering support in their fight for a better tomorrow. On behalf of the youth of Bonaire, I would like to say thank you.
Thank you very much. We highly appreciate your efforts. We highly appreciate your approach, and we all together will achieve your self-determination and Bonaire'S independence. Dear participants, I would like to give the floor to the International Youth Advisor of Bonaire Human Rights Organization, Mr. Isaiah Samuel.
Sorry, I hadn't prepared to speak at this point, so please excuse me. All protocols established and observed. Excellencies, honorable members of Parliament, colleagues, associates. First of all, thank you. Thank you for extending the invitation to me to participate in the thematic conference, Bonaire'S Pathway from Baku through the United Nations General Assembly to Self-Determination. For those of you to whom I have not yet properly introduced myself, my name is Matai Samuel, and I hail from the Republic of Suriname. I hear you thinking, so why is the Surinamese pleading the case of Bonaire? Bonaire and Suriname are sisters in many ways. Our peoples share values, we appreciate each other's cultures, and we frequently exchange them. We speak similar languages and even share some. The peoples of Suriname and Bonaire both respectively bear the scars and carry the fetid wounds of colonialism. Suriname and Bonaire share a Dutch colonial history. The key difference between Bonaire and Suriname is that we successfully advocated for our independence from the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and while we undeniably still have a long way to go and are a long way off from true decolonization, Suriname could not have achieved its sovereignty without the help of friends, allied nations, headstrong advocates on multiple levels. Through this speech, I hope to clarify and reaffirm that I stand before you today as a once and future friend of Bonaire, as a friend of the people of Bonaire. Allow me to thank the other friends of Bonaire present in the room, a St. Lucian, dedicated citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a Belizean, someone born in Guyana, un Mexicano, children and grandchildren of Macambas, Hindepretu, and much in between and beyond, the people of the Republic of Azerbaijan, all in one room with a shared purpose, the shared commitment to Bonaire's journey to re-achieving self-determination. As many of the previous speakers have eloquently put it over the last few days, and as I share the sentiment, oppressed people recognize oppressed people and the struggle they endure. Our gracious host, the Baku Initiative Group, and you, the citizens of Azerbaijan, shared Azerbaijan's own history, which at times has also been void of self-determination. The people of Bonaire receive significantly less social support than their European counterparts, with the cost of living on Bonaire surpassing that of the Netherlands, leaving Bonaireans with far less disposable income. As repeatedly mentioned, Dutch dominance in access to resources, facilities, and opportunities is more than evident and steadily growing, echoing historical injustices. The history of Bonaire does not start with European presence on the island. As has been mentioned, Bonaire is known for its indigenous community, a community where people have attempted to eradicate it. Still, the indigenous people of Bonaire endure. The unequal access to resources is exemplified by the housing market on the island since 2010, when Bonaire became a municipality, a special municipality within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Wealthy Dutch people have found it easier to relocate to the island, driving up housing prices significantly. The high prices of food are largely due to the island's heavy reliance on imported goods, predominantly from the Netherlands. While tourists and affluent immigrants can afford these prices, local residents face financial strain. They are priced out of these essential resources, perpetuating disparities and inequalities. The consequences of the unequal access to the resources are evident, with residents, news platforms, and government organizations regularly reporting on them. While I was preparing for this speech, I took it upon myself to speak to many human rights activists within the region and abroad, across regions. Many invested human rights advocates and activists that pride themselves in being informed on the struggle of different peoples did not know about what's happening on Bonaire because so little information reaches us. Well, now you have this thematic conference. The people of Bonaire are present in the room. You have heard them, and I hope that you have listened to them. The plight is clear. Bonaire, at this point in time, is a segregated society where divisions persist not only along economic lines, but also very directly along racial lines. Differences in spending power is one of the reasons why Bonaireans generally tend to visit different places. They have multiple jobs to make ends meet. Most of those jobs cater to the Dutch present on Bonaire, to the Dutch immigrants, treating Bonaire as their personal retreat. And while the Dutch present on the island enjoy exclusive beach clubs, indulging in the local cuisine, misusing the culture, they fail to rise to the occasion and the responsibilities as administrating powers. As clearly mentioned by the United Nations, the Kingdom of the Netherlands has the responsibility of facilitating Bonaire in achieving self-determination. It's clear that the Kingdom of the Netherlands has done the opposite. Bonaire already had self-determination, and they retreated from that. We have taken many steps backward, and it's taking effort, it's taking time, energy, and resources to re-achieve that level of self-determination. But don't take it from me. Who am I? Take it from the thousands of Bonairean youths living this reality every day. We've mentioned the right to self-determination, but I would like you to understand that self-determination does not exist in isolation. It exists in relation to many different human rights and also children's rights. The right to education has been mentioned. The right to language, the right to culture. Language is more than just words, as Ms. Finney's mentioned. It's the way of expressing your feelings, your thoughts. It's about relating to your peers. While Papiamento is not classified as an endangered language, it is very vulnerable. It is not protected at this point in time. It is not adequately being explored and being provided and being taught as it should. It's a beautiful language. I have been enjoying listening to the delegation speaking Papiamento, the melodicness of the language. And I would like to see it protected as many of the parts of the Bonairean culture. The presence of the Bonairean youth in this room is a testament to the attention, the awareness, and the resolve of youth in the plight of Bonaire. This brings me to my final point, the danger of indifference. I need not remind the distinguished attendees of the time that Azerbaijan was part of the Soviet Union, as most of us in this room were alive when Azerbaijan declared its independence in 1991. I need not remind you of the atrocities that have taken place as the international community looked on, as you lived these experiences. After the escalation of human rights violations, we tend to exclaim that we now know better, that in retrospect we should have seen it coming. Well, now, as the atrocities are taking place on Bonaire, I ask for your attention, your continued attention. The support of the Baku Initiative Group and the people of Azerbaijan to Bonaire's plight has already proven to be a frontier containing many new avenues for advocating for the human rights acknowledgement of the people of Bonaire. Human rights are not courtesies, nor bargaining chips, nor rewards for cooperation and subordination. The word sacrifice has been mentioned by Mr. Finney's. The members of this delegation risk excommunication. Some of us have survived multiple assassination attempts. I firmly believe that this delegation of Bonaire and its allies does not take the sacrifice of the safety and security of its members lightly. And yet the sacrifice is self-evident. It's only natural because we understand the weight, the gravity, and the momentousness of this occasion, of this conference. I want to end by saying thank you, Masha Danki, muchas gracias, Chok Sagol, Grantangi, for your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zamiel, for insightful speech. And now it's a privilege for me to introduce our professor from Azerbaijan University of Language, Ms. Sevdagul Aliyeva.
Thank you very much, dear moderator. Distinguished guests and esteemed colleagues, today we gather to celebrate and reflect on Bonaire's inspiring journey. This journey highlights the island's unwavering commitment to preserving its unique identity and national culture while harnessing the power of tourism to drive sustainable development and self-determination. Bonaire is a small island, but it's rich in cultural heritage and pride. The people of Bonaire have long understood that their traditions, customs, and way of life are not just aspects of their daily lives. They are the essence of their identity. This deep connection to cultural heritage sets Bonaire apart and what its people strive to protect and promote as they navigate the challenges of the modern world. What makes Bonaire truly special is pristine beaches and vibrant marine life, as well as the richness of its cultural tapestry. The island offers a unique blend of history, nature, and tradition that can't be found elsewhere. Bonaire's landscape is dotted with historical landmarks. From the iconic slave huts that speak to the island's complex, past to the centuries, old salt pans still in use today. These sites are more than just tourist attractions. They are symbols of the resilience and ingenuity of the Bonairean people. The diversity of Bonaire's attractions is another key element of its appeal. While the island is renowned for its world-class scuba diving sites, where the coral reefs are among the most pristine in Caribbean, it also offers a wealth of experience for those interested in culture and history. Visitors can explore the island's vibrant art scene, where local artists draw inspiration from Bonaire'S national beauty, or participate in traditional festivals that celebrate the island's rich heritage. The island's culinary scene is yet another draw, with local dishes that reflect the island's multicultural influences, offering tourists a taste of Bonaire'S unique cultural blend. Central to Bonaire'S vision for the future is developing a tourism industry that respects and enhances this cultural heritage. Tourism on Bonaire is more than an economic opportunity. It's a means of sharing the island's rich cultural tapestry with the world. Visitors to Bonaire aren't just tourists, they are guests who are welcomed into a community that takes immense pride in its history, traditions, and natural beauty. The island's approach to tourism is one of the sustainability and respect. Bonaire is committed to ensuring that tourism growth doesn't come at the expense of its environment or cultural identity. Instead, tourism is seen as a way to preserve and showcase what makes Bonaire unique. Through carefully managed tourism initiatives, Bonaire can protect its pristine beaches, vibrant marine life, and rich cultural heritage while providing economic opportunities for its people. The preservation of Bonaire'S national culture is closely tied to its efforts towards self-determination. As the island moves forward, it does so with a clear understanding that its future success depends on maintaining a strong sense of identity. This includes ensuring that the younger generations continue to learn and value the traditions and customs that have shaped Bonaire'S history. The island's culture, a fusion of African, European, and indigenous influences, is a powerful draw for tourists seeking and authentic and enriching experiences. Whether through the vibrant music, traditional dances, or the warm hospitality of its people, Bonaire'S culture offers a unique experience that captivates all who visit. Through the Baku Initiative Group, Azerbaijan has been a crucial ally in supporting Bonaire'S aspirations. By providing platforms for dialogue and advocacy, Azerbaijan has helped to elevate the importance of cultural preservation and self-determination on the global stage. This partnership is a testament to the shared cultural pride and resilience values that unite our communities. The collaboration between Bonaire and Azerbaijan models how small communities can amplify their voices on the world stage, advocating for the preservation of cultural identities in an increasingly globalized world. In conclusion, Bonaire'S path to self-determination is a powerful example of how a community can preserve its identity and cultural while embracing the opportunities of the modern world. By focusing on sustainable tourism, Bonaire ensures that its cultural heritage remains vibrant and its economy robust. This journey is one of pride, resilience, and a deep commitment to the values that define Bonaire as a unique and thriving island community. As we continue to support Bonaire on this path, let's celebrate the success of preserving cultural identity and national pride, ensuring that these treasures are passed down to future generations while fostering a sustainable and prosperous future for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speech, Professor. And next speaker is Chief Lecturer of Azerbaijan University of Language, Ms. Nigar Dunyamali.
Thank you. What is the one thing that we all have in common? It is food. We need it. And it brings us together. But right now, accessing cheap and nutritious food is becoming more and more difficult around the world. We found ourselves living in a global food crisis. 345 million people today are suffering from hunger at a crisis level. The pandemic economic results play a huge part in hunger rising an usual level. In 2019, there were 135 million hungry people in the world, but in 2022, there were 345 million hungry people. 149 children were stunted in 2020. But why is the world hungrier than ever? Conflict is still the biggest driver of hunger, with 70% of world's hungry people living in areas afflicted by war and violence. Events in countries such as Palestine and Ukraine are further proof of how conflict feeds hunger, forcing people out of their homes, wiping out their sources of income, and breaking countries' economies. The climate crisis is one of the leading causes of the steep rise in global hunger. Climate shocks destroy lives, crops, and livelihoods, and undermine people's ability to feed themselves. Hunger will spiral out of control if the world fails to take immediate climate action. Global fertilizer prices have climbed even faster than food prices. High fertilizer prices could turn the current food affordability crisis into a food availability crisis. Many food crises involve multiple overlapping issues driving hunger that are building year on a year. The interplay between conflict, economic shocks, and the impact of the climate crisis is vital to understanding the scale of the challenge. The global community must not fail on its promise to end hunger and malnutrition by 2013. COVID was the big problem for hunger. Countries have exhausted their budgets, and they would normally try to intervene in a crisis like this. And COVID has caused unemployment, and it has pushed millions of people into extreme poverty. The Caribbean region, already hit by the COVID pandemic and struggling with the impact of the climate crisis, now faces another serious problem, a food crisis. Food prices around the world, including in the Caribbean, skyrocketed this year after the conflict in Ukraine broke out. Food crises are bad for everyone, but even more so for the poorest. The first thing families with low income do during the food crisis is switch to cheaper food that fills the stomach but is usually less nutritious. And when nutritional needs are not met, people have lower productivity, and inadequate nutrition has a reversible effect on a child's physical and mental development. In prevalence of overweight and obesity in children in Bonaire is high. Prevention of overweight should focus on stimulating healthy eating habits and more physical activity. Okay, to put it really simply, all of these terrible things are swirling to create this perfect storm. It is a storm that's pushing the globe towards mass hunger. For those of us who are lucky enough to live in rich countries, this affects our cost of living, but for the most at risk, like children and families that live in low-income countries. This will create scenarios of life or death. There is lots and lots of ways we can help to many to live here, but fixing the problem, it actually starts with not being silent about the problem. I know the last few years have been tiring, but we cannot let the globe be pushed to mass hunger. We have to work together and we have to fight back. Thank you for attention.
Thank you for your speech. And dear participants, it seems that we need a coffee break. We will have coffee break for next 15 minutes, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we can start our second session, discussions on historical context of the struggle for Bonaire's self-determination and decolonization under international law. And dear participants, please welcome our distinguished delegate, Honorable Ambassador Dr. June Soomer, the chair of the Parliament Forum on People of African Descent. The floor is yours, Ms. Soomer.
Thank you very much. I would ask Mr. Abbasov to allow me to adopt the protocol that has already been established and to say that I am June Soomer. I am currently serving as a member and the chair of the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. And one of our main objectives is to contribute to the full political, economic, and social inclusion of people of African descent in societies in which they live as equal citizens without discrimination of any kind, and contribute to ensuring equal enjoyment of all human rights. I am therefore here on two counts. First of all, as a member of the Permanent Forum, but more than that, I am from the Caribbean, and I am a historian, an educator, an activist, a reparationist, and an anti-colonialist. And so I must say that it is very good to have access to a space where the voices of colonial people can be heard, because this is not an easy space to secure, as often these colonies are treated as petulant children who are misbehaving, and the voices of the liberation movements are treated with scant regard. In fact, the Baku Initiative and the government and people of Azerbaijan have created this safe space for colonized people, like the people of Bonaire, to express their views on self-determination with dignity, to remove themselves from the classification ultimately as non-independent countries is to be lauded. On behalf of the people of colonized countries of the world, and especially on behalf of Caribbean colonies like Bonaire, I thank you for your audacity to step up and join us in a battle that is more than 4 centuries old. My presentation starts with an articulation by the prominent thinker Frantz Fanon, who wrote on colonialism and the anti-colonial struggle. He inscribed colonialism with a persona that violently and unequivocally dehumanized, and may I add, continues to brutalize individuals and disrupt societies under the guise of upliftment and civilizing, while stamping out liberation movements of any struggle for freedom. The fight against colonialism is the fight for justice. The fight against colonialism is a fight for dignity. The fight against colonialism is a fight against a stymieing racism that despises but must dominate. For how else can they prove their worth except against a backdrop of crushing incivility? The fight against colonialism is a fight for reclaiming identity and a fight for all of our humanity. The fight against colonialism must be our unity on such fundamental issues like self-determination, for if they continue to divide us, they continue to suppress us. I speak of colonialism in the present because it has not changed, even under the guise of neocolonialism. It has only shifted shape. Which takes me to the case of Bonaire, which is the pilot case for the new shape of colonialism. Total absorption and invisibility of a people who have struggled for a land of their own. Had it not been for its current global geopolitical location, its proximity to oil, and its marine biodiversity ripe for extraction, it would have been left and forgotten like an outside child. But the sordid sanitization, coordinated globally, of the history of colonization has seen a resurgence of a longing for the days of empire. They want us to forget that these lands, like Bonaire, continue to be occupied by a people who have already suffered decimation, enslavement, and domination by a kingdom so far removed from the realities of the people that, like an amoeba, it absorbed them without their consent, even under protest. We have to revisit the concepts of colonization and decolonization, especially in a changing world that has articulated the re-invasion of Africa and the Caribbean. Colonialism has extracted from us to enrich itself and then distracted us by telling us that we are incapable of such enrichment as if the stolen is their birthright. The true sadness is that many of us think that we are undeserving. Friends, your intervention is timely, as this new longing for empire and global dominance will be as deadly as its first wave. The time is ripe for us to take our place against a global dictate that some people do not have the right to self-determination. The recolonization of the regions of the world is taking place under a pretext that these unworthy people are incapable of taking care of themselves and need to be led gradually towards self-determination. We need to assess the legality of the denial of these rights. For Bonaire, the illegal absorption with no recourse to self-determination is one of the most notorious cases of colonial disenfranchisement to date. The dwindling population forced to seek political enfranchisement in the kingdom, intent on keeping its knees on their throat, is criminal. Why would a kingdom in which you have no say want to maintain such a hold? A benevolent monarchy is definitely an oxymoron, except if we go back to the medieval times when peasants bowed before lords, and during the Atlantic slave trade, when human beings were classified as chattel to be bought, sold, mortgaged, and inherited. What the kingdom has done is mortgage the future of the youth of Bonaire, as lucrative jobs are reserved for other citizens of the mainland kingdom, while the young people are now servants, beggars, and forced homeless migrants. My recommendation is that we have to give Bonaire back its right to self-determination, strengthen the ability of the C24 to make the assessment of steps taken by colonial countries to foster such a path, and to hold them accountable for the lack of progress. Personally, I call for independence of all colonies. Let me go back to Fanon, who made it clear that the colonizer will never give up something for nothing. The continued extraction cannot be allowed to continue. They are giving up nothing, but they are giving the land, the citizenship, and the future of these colonies to those who will give them political dominance. Carlyle Cobbing, in his assessment of self-governance, sufficiency and conformity with internationally recognized standards, when he looked at Bonaire, reminds us that the Kingdom of the Netherlands has dismissed the results of both the 2010 referendum and the 2015 referendum results, which indicated that the people of the country overwhelmingly rejected the imposition of that status on them. In front of the world, they declared the poll was non-binding. The legality of this unilateral decision needs to be treated as they have violated both the collective rights and rights as individuals of that island. By bringing the case of Bonaire to the world, we are fighting for all of our collective humanity. The people of Bonaire have a right to development. The people of Bonaire have a right to sustainable development. According to the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights, and I quote, "The goal of development is to improve the well-being of every member of society. People are not the how of development, not the tools that can be exploited to produce greater wealth for limited elites. They are the why. True development generates greater social justice, not deeper exploitation, and it reduces the towering inequalities which threaten fundamental human rights, in particular of those who are marginalized and poor." Let me leave you then, in conclusion, with this bit from the UN speech by Haile Selassie that states, "The goal of equality of man, which we seek, is the very antithesis of the exploitation of one people by another. Let me emphasize the humanity and dignity of the people of Bonaire as we move them on the path to self-determination." I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, our Honorable Ambassador. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your support on fair struggle of Bonaire people. And now, dear participants, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Sara Elaskarva, who is PhD in Sociology, Senior Lecturer at Azerbaijan University of Languages. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I am so grateful for participation in this conference. I would like to talk about a little bit historical background of Bonaire Island and self-determination of the island. Bonaire is an island with a rich and complex history spanning over 100 million years. Bonaire's history is deeply rooted in its inhabitants and their culture, a 1,000-year journey from the Arawak Indians to Venezuela, Spanish and Dutch periods, and the trade winds of the Caribbean Sea. In 1499, Amerigo Vespucci discovered Bonaire by an expedition. Indians lived on Bonaire age before Amerigo arrived. At the northern part of Bonaire, you still can see some Indian drawings in several places. And Indians inhabited the island centuries before the arrival of Europeans. They lived primarily near the coastal areas where they cultivated fruits such as cassava and beans. Being nomadic people, they would move around according to the seasons. After falling out with Queen Isabella in 1495, Columbus lost his exclusive rights to explore the New World, and the Caribbean became open territory for expeditions. Additionally, Alonso de Ojeda and Amerigo Vespucci were among the first to take advantage of this situation in 1499. They landed on Bonaire Island and claimed it for Spain. Bonaire had neither gold nor sufficient rainfall to encourage large-scale agricultural production, so the Spanish saw very little reason to develop the colony. Instead, they forced the native Indians into slavery on the large plantations of the island of Hispaniola. The first Europeans to have reached Bonaire were Spanish explorers in 1526. They remained on the island for some time before eventually leaving after encountering hostility from local native tribes. The early settlers of Ireland led simple lives, living off the land and sea, and engaged in activities such as fishing, farming, and pottery making. But the arrival of Spanish in the 16th century changed everything. The Spanish people brought with them new ideas, desire for control, significantly impacting the lives of native people, but disease as well. It was probably only in the 1520s that Spanish settled on Bonaire, possibly in the vicinity of the current town Rincon in the north of Ireland. Here, a few Spanish colonies lived with a small number of repatriated indigenous people, whom they employed to look after their livestock, which they had introduced and which multiplied quickly on the island. In 1634, the Dutch occupied Curaçao to start a maritime base to fight against Spain. On the Dutch chased away Spanish people, Bonaire became a Dutch colony in 1636. In the 17th century, Bonaire's destiny took another turn. When the Dutch colonized the island, they saw the potential for economic growth and established the Dutch West India Company, which played a vital role in the development of the island. One of the most significant aspects of this period was the slave trade. The Dutch transported slaves from Africa to Bonaire, using the island as a hub for the transatlantic slave trade. This period, unfortunately, can rightly be called one of the darkest pages of the history Bonaire and the Netherlands. Only on December 19, 2022, did the Dutch government officially apologize for the slavery past. During this period, the Dutch had struggled to maintain possession of the colony. Twice at the beginning of the 19th century, the British captured the Curaçao, the capital of Dutch West Indies, and thus gained control of Bonaire'S island as well. In 1936, Bonaire males were given the right to vote, and the local political parties emerged over the next decade. It wasn't until after the war that the islanders began to press the greater autonomy. Self-rule was guaranteed by Queen Juliana of the Netherlands. Also, the Antilles remain a Dutch protectorate. Independence brought a greater progress. Additionally, Bonaire gradually gained more autonomy within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, allowing the island to preserve its unique cultural heritage. Since October 2010, Bonaire, Statia, and Saba are no longer part of the Dutch Antilles, but has been given the status of special municipality with the direct ties to the Netherlands. These three islands are known as the Caribbean Netherlands, and since that date, Curaçao and Sint Maarten are separate countries within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, similar to Aruba. Bonaire underwent a significant political change when the island held a popular referendum. The outcome led to Bonaire becoming a special municipality within the Netherlands. This new status in the history of Bonaire came with different laws and distinct tax regime compared to mainland Netherlands. And this shift also came with this share of drawbacks for the local population. Although being a special municipality of the Netherlands, Bonaire has limited access to social services, poverty alleviation programs, social housing, and benefits that are available to Dutch citizens in the mainland. This situation highlights the ongoing struggle for Bonaire to balance its unique identity with the advantages and disadvantages of being part of the Kingdom of Netherlands. I would like to highlight the point that we feel sorry for your slavery past. We are all human, and I think everyone deserves to get education in his native language, to read poetry independently in his native language. Additionally, we support self-determination of the island. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aleskarova, for such research. Dear participants, I suggest to have a lunch break for getting energy for the second half day of our conference. Please.